Danielle Denise Schofield. Born in Amarillo, Texas, September 24th, 1971. Passed from this life to the next, July 31st, 2020 in Colorado Springs. Her life is an epic journey of love. Everyone she touched knew something more, a greater depth, a deeper understanding of love. Her passion points of life were to create, inspire, coach, world changer children, to bring beauty to every situation that she was present in, and she was always present. Her life had a rhythm to it. It had a cadence to it that was song-like, and that's perfectly Danielle. She was mums, terrific wife. She was Danielle. She was Nona to grandchildren. She brought life to every situation that she was in. Whether it was in theater, working with students in a school, whether it was the children in her family or grandchildren, whether it was a stranger on the street. Danielle lived a complete life of purpose, raising great kids, inspiring great kids, whispering to children that they can be strong, that they are beautiful, that they are courageous, that they can be brave. She would have a way of softly encouraging people that needed that encouragement. She knew love and expressed it like no one else. She was completely, utterly about love. And we are so fortunate to be able to have the next hour to talk a little bit about that. Talk about the impact she made in our family and outside of the family. I hope all that hear this and see this have an opportunity to come away with a deeper understanding of what it means to have a full calling to care about others. That's love. That's what Danielle means.
Hi, I am Danielle's daughter-in-law, Andrea. I am married to her son, Skylar, and mama to her grandson, Beckett. When I first met Danielle, I was immediately struck by her generous spirit, her creative vision, and the love she has for her family. She was always ready to pour her heart into any creative project you could come up with, no matter how complicated or crazy it seemed. She would always give her time and love to those projects without hesitation. When Skylar and I started planning our wedding, we decided we wanted a paper flower wall as a backdrop for the ceremony. We had no idea where to start, so we called Danielle and brought it up with her, and she just dove all in. The wall behind us is the result of all of her hard work. I think we figured that it took something like 400 hours worth of work, most of which was Danielle. It never would have come out as perfectly as it did without her vision and just her time and the love she put into months and months of crafting flowers and helping us arrange everything. And we'll forever be grateful to have this piece of her creativity in our home. Her creativity and her generosity really continued over the years, especially with her grandsons. She adored Beckett and loved to come up with creative ideas and games for him. One of the first was Nona's Mouse House. So she made a dollhouse into a house for mice and named a mouse after each of the grandsons. And Beckett would go over and play with Captain Brave, and he and Nona would tell adventures about Captain Brave, and Captain Brave would go fishing and camping, and watching them play and laugh together was amazing. She had such a special way with children, and having grandchildren was just the culmination, I think, of a life of raising kids. She also, about a year ago, started sending letters and cards, hand-drawn coloring pages, craft projects to Beckett in the mail, and it was always a highlight of a day when Beckett got a letter from Nona. Most of them had stickers with activities for the stickers and themes, and that creativity and thoughtfulness to do that on a regular basis for Beckett, and I know she did it for Avery and Rain and Soren as well, is amazing. Nona's creative gifts to Beckett culminated in a beautiful book that she hand-painted and wrote about Beckett and Nona together, and how happy her life was with him in it. And that book will forever be a really important gift that we treasure. I'm so grateful for the 8 years that I got to have Nona's creativity and generosity and loving heart as a part of my life and my family's life. Nona, we will miss you.
I am Skylar Schofield, Danielle's oldest stepson. And this is Beckett, Nona's grandson. She was known around here as Nona. We have a book here that Beckett and I are going to read. This book, called Me and My Nona, was the last creative project Nona completed before she went into the hospital. And we like to read it for you. Me and My Nona, a book for Beckett. My Nona is sick, and that makes me sad. But then I remember, I can make her glad. I can draw her a picture with a captain who's brave, who sails the high seas and fights the waves. I can show her new ways I'm getting so big. I can give her loves and snuggles and even dance her a jig. Sometimes she goes to the hospital and that makes her blue. But then she remembers she can make me glad too. She can tell me stories about so many things, and then we both have laughs and silly songs to sing. We can play with puppets, and tickles are always fun. Love and snuggles are a must, and we are the happy ones. I wonder how glad we can be today as we laugh and sing and play. The end. Danielle came into my life when I was just a little kid. She was our live-in nanny. It was a very dynamic and challenging environment that she walked into. I think most would run away at the time, but she did not. Her all-in attitude, regardless of the challenge ahead, resulted in her becoming my stepmother. Her commitment to my dad meant that she was able to fulfill her own purpose of raising a beautiful family of her own. Most wander through life without knowing what their purpose is, and even fewer get to actually fulfill that purpose. But she did. It is without a doubt that she completed her purpose of building and raising a beautiful family, me included. I think the secret beauty of death is that it exposes a deeper understanding of ourselves, and it emphasizes that power of purpose that she was a great example of, and I will always be grateful for that.
My name is Cody. I am Danielle's second born, her middle child. Me and Mom had a really good relationship. We would talk to each other about things. We would listen to each other, bounce ideas off each other. We would, she was my best friend, for sure. There was, no matter how stupid of a decision I made, no matter when it was, she would care and help, and more than anything, she would love you, even in your darkest, dumbest moments. She'd be the one to tell you it's gonna be fine. Let everything know that tomorrow's gonna come around, and she was willing to help you figure out what the next step was, no matter what it was, no matter what crazy, weird direction or dream you had. She was there for you. Yeah. And I would like to, talk about, favorite memories with her, but thinking about that the last few days, there's not really a favorite memory you can have with her. Every day, she would just try and put in effort to make everyone's lives better, especially those of her children. She would just work tirelessly to make sure we all had everything we need and everything we wanted. She was always there to support us. And I will miss her greatly. Even not her own children. Everyone else's too. From the schools she would work at to her theater groups, everything. She loved kids, she loved the new generation, she wanted to influence people, children, new minds, give them creative ideas and new outlets to explore and create. It wouldn't matter who they were. If they showed an interest in something, she would be there to back them, to push you to bigger and better things, to greatness. She was always there, and everyone who knew her, their lives were made better because of it. She was a great mentor, a friend, a mother, and she loved all of us more than we could ever know.
My name is Joa, Danielle's youngest son. When I was initially tasked with speaking about my mom, my first thought was to look at all the ways she's impacted my life. However, I quickly realized there is not one way in which she hasn't impacted who I am. There are a handful of people and individuals who have shaped who I am as a person, and my mother stands on the top of that list. So instead of speaking on that idea, I decided to look at some of my favorite moments with her and share those with all of you here today. I sat for a while thinking of the perfect moment that encapsulated her in a few short sentences, and the number of amazing stories was a list far too long to share all of them. While I was sitting and thinking, I looked down and laughed to myself, realizing that the perfect story is tattooed right on my forearm. This is the story that, while not exciting or all that amazing, is one of my favorites and is a story worth telling. When people see this set of random coordinates, they normally, if not always, say something along the lines of, "Where is that?" I've learned through a series of trial and error that the best response is a place I went with my mom. But the real story takes more time and understanding to fully appreciate. About 7 years ago, my mom and I went on a trip to London and Paris. This was right before her health took a more serious turn, and her ability to do trips changed forever. For those next 7 or 8 years, my mom, while still the amazing, creative, and loving person we all know she was, as a person, she was most definitely altered in some ways. This trip stands as one of the last times I was able to see the real version of my amazing mother, the active, exciting person who raised 5 kids, ran a household, all the while working on crafts and smiling through every moment. If you did a real quick search of these coordinates, your first thought would be that I did my calculations wrong and couldn't have possibly selected this random location as my first tattoo. However, you would be wrong. About a mile or so away from the Eiffel Tower, at a waiting station of a popular river pit stop on the bare cobblestone walkway of the river's edge is where this tattoo leads. Near the end of the trip, my mom and I wanted to see the Eiffel Tower one last time, so we headed to the nearest boat station to make our way to the architectural masterpiece. We found out we would need to wait 20 minutes until the boat made its way around to our location. So my mom and I sat waiting. With our legs hanging over the water, we could see the Eiffel standing in the distance, the gold of the statues resting next to us glinting in the afternoon sunlight. I remember at this moment thinking how happy I was to be there with her, how happy she seemed. She had no pain, no discomfort, no rush or changes needed, just her and I enjoying our time together. So that is how I remember my wonderful, amazing mother. And that is how I ask all of you to remember her as well, someone full of life and, most importantly, love.
Growing up, there was a crack in my immediate family. And that's all I really remember about what was going on with them when I was really little. But I also remember Auntie being there all the time. She would make every day so special. She always listened to me in Jersey and what we were going through at the time, and she gave us little gifts on what she thought would help, and they always helped us get through it. And it was just, she made my childhood so unbelievably special. And I only remember her making it special. She also showed me basically all of my favorite things, from Labyrinth to David Bowie to classic movies like Clueless and The Princess Bride, and all of my favorite movies, Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club, things that make me me. She was the person who showed me how to put curlers in my hair and how to do my makeup. And she taught me all about mascara and perfume, and she got me ready for homecoming multiple times. And she helped me form my look and who I wanted to be. She also taught me a lot about jewelry and earrings and how to layer outfits together and how to create your own style and how to also express yourself. And she also taught me how to shave my legs and everything that there is to being a woman. And she showed that so beautifully, and it's hard to explain in words how to capture that. But it was so beautiful to watch and so peaceful. And now there's so many things that I wish she knew. So many things I wanted to ask her still. And so many things I wanted to tell her about my life and what I've been through, and I thought I had a lot more time. But I have this really strong piece about how she does know all of these things now. She knows everything. And she knows the emotions I'm going through, which is almost better than trying to have to explain it. And every time I think about that, it feels really, really good.
By the time I joined this family, life was busy, especially for Danielle, who in the course of a few years would be planning and decorating 2 weddings and producing at least 3 ECA plays that I attended. And so most of the time that I spent with her was at family gatherings or those events. And even though I didn't get a lot of one-on-one time with her, I very clearly saw that her gift was being able to show love to people by sharing in their passions. She found out what you loved, and that's how she loved you. A few years ago, she was having a hard time, and I had done this thing growing up called a heart attack, where you go to someone's house and decorate their front door with construction paper hearts that have nice messages on them. And so I did that for her. At like 1 in the morning, I was nervous Chris was gonna come out with one of his guns because he heard someone at his front door. But I decorated her front door just so she could see that someone was loving her and supporting her. My birthday was close after that, so I came home to my house a little after that, and I found my front door covered in hearts and envelopes of many different sizes that all were filled with just little messages from her, messages about me, quotes, uplifting words. And she called it a letter bomb because she knew that I loved snail mail, and that was her way to love me. And I've kept every piece of that letter bomb in my personal journals so that I can remember my sister's love. Danielle gave us her time, her energy, and probably especially her creativity just to show us that she loved us. And those are the memories that are going to keep her with us.
How do you summarize a lifelong relationship with somebody? I don't think you can. There's too many intricacies there. There's too many jokes built on shared situations and a lifetime of emotion and love and sadness and happiness. And it just, how can you possibly sum that up? My sister tried to love every person that she ever met. I firmly believe that she wanted people to have a positive takeaway from her interaction with them. Each and every person she met, she wanted them to feel loved and validated. And I think that's a really beautiful trait in a human being. My sister has been so many things to me in a 42-year relationship. She's been a caretaker. She's been a confidant. She was a friend to laugh with, a friend to cry with. She was one of my best friends, and certainly my oldest friend. And that loss is a hard one to overcome. Danielle was a loving aunt to my boys. Even though she had limited time with them because of my situation, she always tried to make them feel loved and special. Summers staying at her house weren't just about being there and getting fed. She tried to do things with them. She tried to invest time and money and love. And I know that was an important part of their childhood. I was talking to Chris last week about life after this loss and where we all go from here. And it occurred to me that Danielle's love built a family strong enough to survive her passing. And I think that's one of the most beautiful legacies that a person could leave behind. There's so much more that I could say about my friend and my sister, but I want to read the last text I ever sent to her. I think it sums it up pretty well. I said, since we do not know what tomorrow will bring, I want to say some important things. I'm not ready to live in a world without my big sister. Who would I confide in for those special or difficult issues that life creates? Who would I share a newly discovered cover song with? It was one of our favorite things, was to share music. Who would I share that knowing joke with from across the room at family get-togethers? The answer is no one. Those parts of my life would be gone forever. I'm not prepared to say goodbye, so I'll just say get well soon. And we know how that turned out, but I think that last line still stands. But I'll change it to, I'm not ready to say goodbye. So I'll say see you later, my friend.
Aunt Danielle was truly magical. She was the epitome of happiness and life. She gave love and compassion for all she embraced. With her charming smile, warm laughter, and delightful singing, she was able to make any day memorable. Every memory in my heart of my aunt will always be wrapped in light. She was a hopeful beacon without fail. One of my favorite characteristics about Danielle was how inspirational her art was, especially her ability to materialize a concept into reality. This is showcased by her many worlds she has contrived, imbued with her artistic legacy. This includes her theatrical productions, glamorous holidays and traditions, and Nona projects. She saw beauty, therefore she was. Aunt Danielle, I love you to infinity. May you rest in eternal peace, for you will always be cherished within our hearts.
So where to begin? What do you say that hasn't already been said? You've already heard, probably, of all the gifts and love that Danielle was and gave. But how do you encapsulate that in a person's whole life in a few short words? It's surreal. She gave so much, was creative in so many ways, was there in the moment for everything. She was so creative in so many different facets, whether it was her garden or doing something with her niece or her boys or a neighbor or a friend or creating plays. But she also was a big part in our family traditions. And one of those traditions is what we called the Danielle Schofield Christmas jig. Now, what that was is the whole family would prepare ourselves for the coming new year. And how we did that was we'd play some music, we'd all get out and dance. We did it every single year. And that was something that Danielle loved, and she loved to dance. And the last year, she wasn't able to dance. but I know this year she will be. So this is such a surreal and unnatural thing. How do we get through it? How do we get past it? How do we fill the gaps in those missing moments now? I think one of those ways is look for those creative things in your life that you can find Danielle in. And if you don't have a family jig in your family, and you don't ring in the new year that way, maybe that's something that you can incorporate this year, and you can see Danielle in that. I love you, sis.
So in December of 2019, a friend sent me a song. And when I listen to songs, I read the lyrics for the first time with the song. And it was Danielle. It was my sister. So I will read the lyrics. If my heart could tell a story, if my life would sing a song, if I have a testimony, if I have anything at all, no one ever cared for me like Jesus. His faithful hand has held me all this way. And when I'm old and gray, and all my days are numbered on the earth, let it be known that in you alone my joy was found. Let my children tell their children. Let this be their memory, that all my treasure was in heaven, and you were everything to me. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. His faithful hand has held me all this way. And when I'm old and gray and all my days are numbered on the earth, let it be known, in you alone my joy was found. I found my joy. I'm still in love. You're still enough for me. You're still all I want. You're still my everything. I'm still in love. You're still enough for me. You're still all I want. You're still my everything. No one ever cared for me like Jesus. His faithful hand has held me all this way. And when I'm old and gray and all my days are numbered on the earth, let it be known that in you alone my joy was found. My siblings and I had a rough childhood. And Danielle was required to grow up a lot faster than she should have. And instead of bitterness and anger, she chose joy. She chose to dig in and press into her Savior and find the healing and the forgiveness and the deliverance that is there. And she would encourage me to do the same thing, and we would walk that road together, and we would over and over, let's choose joy, let's choose joy, let's choose joy. And because of that choice, she was blessed. Because of that choice over and over again, Danielle had the ability, like no one I know, to give joy, to give blessing, to give beauty, to create a moment for anyone that was in front of her where there was just joy given. They walked away changed. Even if she wasn't in that moment, even if they opened something from her and she didn't get to see them open it, or she had gone before and done something and somebody found something when she wasn't there, she took the time to invest that blessing and joy in other people. And even when she couldn't be a part of things towards the end because of her health, she found ways to invest, make videos and drawings and books and things that would still bless people for the remainder of the time that we're on this earth. What she invested in is eternal. And then that joy that she gave, that she chose, and the joy that she oozed because it was given in return, 100-fold, then came back to her through her children, the way that she loved her children, her husband, her family, to see the faces and of just the sheer joy that she spread come back. I don't know how to do this season. I don't know how to walk it through. I don't know how. To say goodbye to my sister. And move forth. So I will lead, I will do what she did by example, and I will choose joy.
This film today is for my sister and my friend. I came from Africa never knowing that a friend of mine is going to move across the street from me. The first day I saw her, she was so genuine and so kind. We had a lot of conversation about different places we've been, and she'd been in Indonesia. When I invited her to my house, she tried my food, and she said it tasted almost like the food she used to have in Indonesia. And through that, we became really good friends. And she would come over to my house. When she come, I have parties. She would babysit everybody's child that was there. To me, that was really African, because that's what we do. As time goes on, we had a lot of fun times. Then she got sick. I tried to take her for the walks. She couldn't do it. And that was when she started going down. But the fun thing about her, she always have a smile. Doesn't matter how painful she was. She will always say something that will make you laugh instead. When Chris told me Danielle was sick, it was almost like I was the one sick. And it was so painful, and every day I got updates. The day that I don't get update about Danielle, it was like, is everything all right? And anyway, Danielle, she was the most wonderful person you ever met. I've never met anybody like that. She sent me flowers that she painted, and she always tell me, remind her of Paris, and someday we will be there. She did a front door thing. She take a picture, send it to me, and told me how it reminded her of me. There's very little I could say that could make anything. I never thought that this day would come where I would sit here doing this for her. I treasure her children just as much as she treasures mine. If I don't see the kids, I always ask. She does theaters in schools, and she will always call me and say, oh, I'm doing this. Do you have this fabric? Or do you have this dress? And I always happen to find something, always have a box, and we will go through it. After somebody is gone, you start to regret the things that you did not do or things you should have done. So, Danielle, my good friend, my love, I'll forever treasure you. And it's almost like a dream. Talking here is like telling a story of somebody that have you known centuries ago. it's just not real. But I promise you, we're across the street, we'll take care of your husband, and if the kids need me for anything, I'll always be there. We will see you someday, wherever you are. Look upon us.
First, I just want to say that I feel totally inadequate doing this. I just don't think there's any way to give a tribute to Danielle and have it be worthy of her. She really was the embodiment of Maria von Trapp from Sound of Music. She was the consummate teacher, but she never lectured. She inspired through love and action. And she was always a force to be reckoned with, even when she was a baby. You all know her as having the gorgeous head of hair. But when she was a baby, she was bald, and she stayed that way till she was a year old. And she didn't get her first tooth until she was 11 months old. But she took her first step when she was 7 months, and she was full out walking at 9 months. So you can imagine the looks on people's faces when they saw this bald baby with no teeth walking across the room. She always had an impact on people in a surprising way. She was the first on every side. She was the first child, she was the first grandchild, she was the first great-grandchild, the first niece, nephew, there was nobody else on either side. So everyone doted on her, but she never got spoiled. She didn't ever have a sense of entitlement. And she always just embraced life, whatever it brought her way. She was 5 years old when Cherith was born, and she was 7 years old when Mark was born, and they were her doll babies. And when I became a single parent when she was 9 years old, she just slid right into that co-parenting mode. I mean, they were her doll babies, and she took care of them. And she went to work when she was 12 years old to help pay expenses. She never acted like the victim in any way. She always just embraced life and got on with it. She always knew how to make life fun. So much so that when she moved down to Colorado Springs to be closer to Camp Elam, we followed her. And that's how we all ended up where we are, and how she ended up meeting Chris. So it was a matter of her leading the family. She was the driving force behind our family. She made every birthday, every holiday, every event a special occasion. She was all in on every single project that she ever was involved in, whether it was making presents for teachers, whether it was weddings, showers, banquets that the school was having. If she was the producer of a theater production, she was just all in. And it really became something memorable. Even when her health started to spiral, she started feeling bad, she would always focus on others, and she could make them feel special. A lot of times she would set things up, and then she would end up not being able to go to it herself because she felt so bad, but she had set it up so that everybody else could enjoy themselves and have a good time. When I was in the hospital in 2016, she was there every single day. And she had this theory that if you let people know that you're loved, they will treat you better. So she set out to make sure that people knew I was loved. And she showered me with quilts and flowers and her beautiful hand-lettered plaques and what she called smell goods. So it always had this beautiful fragrance in the room, and people would want to come in. When we left, after 3 weeks, there were actually some of the physical therapists who cried because they weren't going to be able to see Danielle anymore. That's the kind of impression she made. She was a woman of prayer. And you probably don't know this, but she authored and co-authored a couple different articles on prayer for prayer magazines, various ones. And she meant business when she prayed. She prayed the hard stuff. She prayed that God's kingdom would come and His will would be done in the lives of the ones she loved, no matter what it meant, what it took. And she knew what that meant. It's hard to figure out how to do life without her. When I said goodbye to her, I told her that because I'm her mama, I knew her 9 months longer than anybody else on earth. And every single minute of it was a privilege. I can't wait to see her again. I'm so glad that Jesus conquered death and that she's pain-free. And that she's just waiting for us.
Hi, I'm Shay. I am Danielle's daughter. My Nona, or Mama D, as I like to call her, had a way of making you feel special, to make you feel strong and brave, and give you the confidence to tackle any obstacle in your way. She made sure I felt connected, even from far away. Danielle would turn the world upside down to make your life better, or to have some creative solution to turn your dreams into a reality. I had this dream to be Ariel from The Little Mermaid when I was little. For one special Halloween, she did everything in her power to transform me into my favorite Disney princess. She put sparkles on my face, extensions in my hair, and even dyed it with red Kool-Aid. She crafted the most amazing costume, making my 7-year-old dream come true. There was a very special moment when we found my perfect wedding dress. After picking 6 or 7 different dresses, it was the first one I tried on. She knew it before I did. After trying on all the others, I put back on that special dress and felt it right away. When I came out, Danielle was playing our wedding song. As usual, her timing was perfect. We talked about the vision and the small details of my wedding. She came up with the most creative ideas. The amount of time, energy, and love she poured into making my vision come true completely blew me away. Nona was always singing. There was always music playing in our house. The music starts when she walks in and follows her when she leaves. I am now a mom of 3, and the music has followed me into raising the next generation. The same songs that she sang to me, sang to my brothers, and then sang to my boys is a beautiful legacy. I have no doubt that she is now singing with the angels in some great room. So my family and I will keep singing for the next generation to come. We love you, Nona.
So Danielle was incredible. You could always tell with her just how much she cared for and loved those in her life. She was so deeply devoted to everything and everything that was going on with her kids in particular, you know, whether it be from theater productions or weddings to even little things, you know. It's at one point she was sending a postcard to each one of her grandkids every single day. For weeks or months, you know, for a long time. I don't know how many hundreds of cards we got, but it was incredible. It was just incredible, and it shows you just how great a talent she was with kids too, because she'd send the funniest things in those cards. You know, sometimes it was scratch and snips or stickers or whatever, but the kids loved getting them, and they loved unwrapping them individually. And she thought to send 3 separate cards for each one of my kids, which was just incredible. It was so much fun. You know, then there was another time she was out in Las Vegas on vacation, and she found this silly little talking dinosaur, and she recorded it saying, "Hello, it's Nona. And she sent it to Shay, and the boys, when they saw that video, they just laughed and laughed and laughed, and they loved watching the video for weeks. You know, it was incredible. They just laughed every time that they saw it. And I think that's the thing about Danielle. She did this incredible gift or insight into kids' minds, and she knew what would just tickle them. You know, and it's just incredible. It was such a cool thing to be a part of and witness. Another time that stands out to me was coming out to visit in Colorado Springs, and Danielle had inflated this giant bounce house in the middle of the great room, which is just awesome, and the kids absolutely loved it. You know, that's another one of those special things about Danielle. Was nothing was really off limits. You know, she had this house of these beautiful antiques, and she decorated it so beautifully, but everything was first and foremost a toy, it seemed like, you know, and it wasn't a big deal if the kids wanted to play with something, even if it was an antique. And you know, you can really do no harm with Danielle, and I think that is such a great environment to be in for a kid. I think it's part of the reason why all of our kids are so creative and intelligent, and it's rare. It's a rare gift to see someone have like Danielle, and truly grateful that my kids got to be a part of that. One of my other great memories of Danielle was going to Ireland, and you know, that whole trip was just so much fun. But what really stands out to me was this one night we were in this bar, and this really great musician was there, and at one point started playing Disney songs, and the whole bar just was singing along, and it was just a really great moment because Danielle really had this ability to just live in the moment, and she loved to sing, and it was just such a great night. Really, we all just had so much fun, and it was just such a great moment, something I'll never forget. Danielle, I want you to know that I'm so grateful for all the time that we had together. I love you, and I miss you.
My mother-in-law, Danielle, showed love in lots of ways, but one of the ways she showed love was through gifts. And these weren't just normal gifts from Target. These were like the most romantic, beautiful, thoughtful gifts ever. And even like her wrapping, like she would wrap each one differently. She didn't just go to like Walmart and buy wrapping paper. Like, no way. She would draw on it. She would like make her own tags and make her own bows out of like everything in her house. She was just like the best gift giver ever. And getting a gift from her it wasn't the gift itself that was so amazing, but it was like the best part of it was her face when she was giving you the gift, like just this look of eagerness and excitement. And then once you opened it, she would just like tell you all about it and tell you why she got it. And 6 months ago you said this, or she saw this when she was traveling a year ago and she thought of you. But one particular gift that I'll always remember is the clock that she gave us. On Levi and I's first anniversary, we were shopping, and Danielle calls me on the phone and she says, "Hey, I want to buy you and Levi a clock for your anniversary. It's a Schofield thing. We bought Shay and Stu a clock, we bought Skylar and Andrea a clock, and I want to get you guys a clock." So I say, okay. So we head over to their house that evening, and this is not just like your regular analog ticking clock, which I was expecting. This is like the most extravagant, gold, like beautiful clock you could imagine. It has like pink fairies dancing on it, and there's a button you can click and the clock will actually open and start playing music and the fairies start to dance. And Danielle said, "Your nieces and nephews will love coming to your house and pressing the button and watching the fairies dance. And during Christmas, you can change the settings and it will sing Christmas music." So I always send her videos of my nieces and nephews coming up and clicking the button, and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, look at the fairies, that one's mommy, that one's whatever." So that one gift that Danielle gave us, that clock, is probably the thing that I'll remember as like the most extravagant gift that she gave us. And it's like just a piece of her, because she was always like the most, you know, extravagant or like extra person in the room with all her little, like, with just like how beautiful it is and all the little things. So yeah, I think that's one thing that I'll always remember about Danielle.
I am Levi, Danielle's son, and I have been the person who has been in charge of this whole video. This last hour, all the things that you've seen, I've been the guy behind the camera. And because of that, I chose to go last, to record myself last. And the reason for that is that I wanted to see what had been said. And all of the things that have been said about Mom, about Danielle, have been beautiful and true. That she was a reckless creative, that she inspired beauty all around her and was a world-changing mother. And I don't have a lot to add to that, but I want to make sure that the way that all of those traits manifested themselves isn't lost either. The specific things that she did in that regard are so amazing, and they've touched so many lives, that I just want to share a couple, maybe even just one. When I think about a thing that is Danielle, unquestionably it is the trampoline in the living room. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Mom put a full-size 16-foot trampoline in the living room of her homes. If that was put in a movie, you would think it was fake. You would think it was unrealistic that someone would do that, but she really did that. From hearth to the opposite wall was just this huge frame of a trampoline in there, and on any given summer day growing up, there would be 10 kids jumping on this thing, underneath this thing, running around it, climbing up to the second story and jumping off of the banister, really, all the time. And that is the most Danielle thing, because it only comes as an adult, as a parent. For you, that is just inconvenience and ridiculousness and a little bit of danger and risk. But she loved kids so much that she was like, no, we're all in. We're going to put a trampoline in the living room. And growing up, I knew I had the coolest parents for sure, because it's like with the others and then the ones with the trampoline in the living room. And that's pretty cool. And for a person to think that outside of the box and not to hold themselves back and to be so limitless is amazing, but to also inspire that kind of thinking in all the people that she touched is an unbelievable gift. If you look at my life and the job that I have, it's because of her that I'm able to do the things that I do, and that so many other people are inspired to do those things. I want to say thank you, Mom, for that gift of unlocking the brain, of being limitless and thinking like nothing has to hold you back. I love you.
I'd like to speak to Danielle's humility. This amazing woman of bright light was also a woman of deep humility. Here's an example. 2 days before she goes into the hospital, she writes this in June 23rd. Who I want to become. And you'll probably notice that she's pretty much already this. But she writes, who I want to become after the hospital stay. I want to be kind. I want to do things for others. I want to be creative, wise, a reader, bilingual. I want to be organized. I want to always smell good. She wants to be a writer and a social corresponder. a thoughtful person, a children's book reader, a great gift giver, and starred, a listener. I think Danielle could, even though she was just bigger than life, really, her view of life was that life was contained in an alabaster jar. And that jar was not to hold the elements of life to be handed out or given out in small quantities, to be portioned rationally. It was a jar that was to be broken open and poured out all at once, all the time, for whoever would or could receive it. The blessings of that alabaster jar would be shattered and offered to whoever would receive it. That's the Danielle we know. That's the Danielle we'll remember. We love her so.